Breaking news! Thousands of Australian retirees could soon receive back payments and pension differences after the new age pension budget changes, but many people still don't know who qualifies, how much they could receive, or when the payments may arrive. In today's video, we'll uncover the hidden details, the government's latest pension decisions, and what this means for seniors already struggling with Australia's growing pension crisis. Stay with us until the end because some retirees may be missing out on money they are legally entitled to. And if you care about age pension updates, payment increases, Centrelink news, and retirement support in Australia, subscribe now. This channel is dedicated to helping Australian retirees stay informed, protected, and one step ahead. Something extraordinary has been happening quietly in the bank accounts of millions of retired Americans. And if you or someone you love spent any part of your career working in public service, as a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer, a federal employee, or even a railroad worker, then what I am about to tell you could mean thousands of dollars in money that is owed directly to you, right now, sitting unclaimed or only recently delivered after decades of being wrongfully withheld. This is not speculation. This is not a rumor circulating on social media. This is the law of the land, signed, sealed, and already being acted upon by the Social Security Administration. So stay with me because this story involves history, injustice, a dramatic legislative reversal, and a financial lifeline that retirees have been fighting for since the 1970s. Let's go back to where this all began, because to truly understand what is happening today, you need to understand what was done to retirees decades ago. In 1977, the United States government enacted a provision called the Government Pension Offset, commonly known as the GPO. Then, in 1983, a second provision followed, the Windfall Elimination Provision, or the WEP. These two pieces of legislation, buried deep inside the Social Security system, were designed with a stated goal of fairness. Sarcastic, the theory was straightforward. If a worker received a pension from a job that did not require them to pay into Social Security, then they should not also receive full Social Security benefits on top of that pension because doing so would allow them to benefit from a formula designed to protect lower-income workers. The government called it preventing a double dip. Critics, retirees, and advocates called it something else entirely. A punishing and fundamentally unfair penalty that stripped public servants of retirement income they had legitimately earned. Think about what this meant in real life for real people. Imagine a woman who spent 25 years as a public school teacher in a state where teachers did not pay into Social Security. She also worked summers and evenings in Social Security-covered jobs throughout her career. She paid into Social Security. She earned Social Security credits. When she retired, she expected to collect those benefits. Instead, the Windfall Elimination Provision stepped in and slashed her Social Security check, sometimes by hundreds of dollars every single month, simply because she also received a teacher's pension. Now imagine her husband, who worked a private sector job his entire life and paid into Social Security his whole career. He passes away, and she expects to receive his survivor benefits to help cover her living costs in widowhood. The government pension offset swoops in and eliminates that benefit entirely, because the offset reduces spousal and survivor benefits by 2/3 of the government pension she receives. For hundreds of thousands of widows and widowers across America, this meant receiving absolutely nothing in survivor benefits, despite a lifetime of contributions from their late spouses. This was the lived reality for millions of Americans for over 40 years. For decades, retirees and advocacy groups fought to change this. Legislation was introduced in Congress repeatedly. Promises were made, nothing moved. The laws remained on the books, quietly draining retirement income from teachers, police officers, firefighters, federal employees, and railroad workers year after year, decade after decade. And then, on January 5th, 2025, everything changed. President Biden signed the Social Security Fairness Act, formerly known as House Resolution 82, into law. With that signature, both the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset were officially and permanently repealed. Gone. Erased from the books. The two provisions that had penalized public servants for over 4 decades were dead, and the Social Security Administration was directed to restore full benefits immediately. The reaction from retirees who had been fighting this fight for years was immediate and overwhelming. For many, it felt like vindication they thought would never come. Now here is where the story gets even more important, because the law did not simply apply going forward. The Social Security Fairness Act was made retroactive to January 2024. What that means in plain language is that if your Social Security benefits were being reduced by the WEP or GPO during the year 2024, you are entitled to receive back payments covering every single month of that year where you were shortchanged. The Social Security Administration calls these differences, and that word is precise. They represent the gap between what you were paid and what you should have been paid under the law as it now stands. For many retirees, this is not a small amount. The Social Security Administration confirmed that the average retroactive lump sum payment distributed to eligible retirees was approximately $6,710. That is the average. Some retirees received significantly more, and some received less, depending on their individual circumstances and the size of the reductions they had been subjected to. Beginning on February 25, 2025, the Social Security Administration started processing and distributing these retroactive payments. They were deposited directly into the bank accounts that the agency had on file for eligible beneficiaries. Within weeks, the scale of this operation became clear. By early March 2025, the SSA had already paid over 1.1 million people more than $7.5 billion in retroactive benefits. By July 7, 2025, just 5 months into the process, the agency announced a milestone that even their own officials described as extraordinary. Over 3.1 million payments had been sent, totaling $17 billion in retroactive funds distributed to eligible retirees. This was completed 5 months ahead of schedule. The scale of this redistribution of retirement income is genuinely historic, and it is still unfolding for some retirees whose cases were classified as complex. Curious, but who exactly is eligible? This is the question that matters most to you, sitting at home right now. And the answer requires some careful explanation. The Social Security Fairness Act affects workers who received pensions from jobs that did not require them to pay Social Security payroll taxes, what the SSA calls non-covered employment. The most common examples include teachers in states where educators did not participate in Social Security, police officers and firefighters in certain jurisdictions, federal employees who were hired before 1984 and covered under the Civil Service Retirement System, and employees of railroad companies who have their own separate retirement system administered by the Railroad Retirement Board. It also affects the spouses and surviving spouses of workers who received non-covered pensions, because the now repealed government pension offset had been reducing or eliminating their spousal and survivor benefits. Importantly, the law does not affect everyone in these professions. About 72% of state and local government workers do in fact pay into Social Security alongside their pension systems, and those workers were never subject to the WEP or GPO. They will not see any change because of this law. The workers who are eligible are specifically those who were in non-covered employment, the ones whose pension came from a system that existed entirely outside the Social Security framework. If you are not sure which category you fall into, the single most important thing you can do right now is contact the Social Security Administration, check your My Social Security account at ssa.gov, or visit your local SSA office to ask directly whether your benefits were reduced by either of these provisions and whether you are owed retroactive payments. Now let us talk about the ongoing monthly increase, because the retroactive lump sum was just the beginning. Going forward, affected retirees are now receiving higher monthly Social Security checks every single month for the rest of their lives. The Congressional Budget Office estimated before the law passed that eliminating the WEP would increase monthly Social Security benefits for about 2.1 million beneficiaries by an average of $360 per month as of December 2025. Eliminating the GPO was projected to increase monthly benefits by an average of $700 for approximately 380,000 spouses, and by an average of $1,190 for around 390,000 surviving spouses. When you put those numbers together and project them over years of retirement, the total financial impact on affected households is enormous, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional retirement income over the course of a full retirement. For surviving spouses in particular, the impact of this law cannot be overstated. These are often women, frequently in their 70s, 80s, or older, who watch their entire spousal benefit disappear under the government pension offset because they had worked for a government employer that did not participate in Social Security. Some of them had been receiving literally $0 in spousal benefits despite the fact that their late husbands had paid into Social Security their entire working lives. Under the Social Security Fairness Act, those benefits have been restored. For the first time in decades, some of these widows are receiving Social Security income they were legally entitled to all along. The human dimension of this story, the dignity restored to people who spent their entire careers in public service, is as significant as the dollar amounts. There is also an important wrinkle for retirees who had not previously filed for Social Security benefits at all, because they assumed the WEP or GPO would reduce their benefits to zero or to such a small amount that it was not worth the trouble of filing. If you are in that category, your situation is urgent. Because the law is retroactive to January 2024, your window for collecting back payments depends in part on when you file. Under Social Security's standard rules, retroactive benefits for retirement age claims can generally be paid back no more than 6 months from the date you file your application. So if you have not yet filed and you believe the repeal of the WEP or GPO makes you newly eligible for Social Security benefits, you should contact the Social Security Administration immediately. Every month you delay filing could mean 1 month's worth of retroactive benefits lost forever. This is not a situation where waiting is a reasonable option. For those who were already receiving benefits that were reduced by the WEP or GPO, the process has been largely automatic. The Social Security Administration has been working through its records and adjusting payments without requiring most beneficiaries to do anything except ensure that the agency has their correct mailing address and current direct deposit information. You can verify and update this information online through your personal My Social Security account at ssa.gov or by calling or visiting a Social Security office. If you have already received a retroactive lump sum deposit in your account and noticed your monthly benefit has increased, that is the law at work. If you believe you are eligible but have not yet received anything, it is worth checking the status of your case because the agency has acknowledged that a small number of cases involve complexities that require additional processing time. It is also worth understanding the broader context of what this law means for the retirement landscape in America. The Social Security Fairness Act comes at a time when retirement security is already a source of deep anxiety for millions of Americans. According to a recent survey, nearly 3/4 of workers worry that Social Security will not be able to pay their benefits at all. The trust fund that pays Social Security retirement and survivor benefits is projected to face depletion challenges within the coming decade, and the Congressional Budget Office has estimated that the Social Security Fairness Act adds approximately $190 billion in costs over its first 10 years, which does accelerate the timeline of those funding pressures somewhat. This is a real and serious policy debate, and it is one that Congress will need to confront. But for the retirees who are the subject of this video, the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, the federal workers who gave decades of their lives to public service and had their retirement income penalized for it, the message from Congress and from the law is clear. What was taken from you was not right, and we are giving it back. The Railroad Retirement Board, which administers retirement benefits for railroad workers separately from the Social Security Administration, has also been working through its own implementation of the law. The provisions that were repealed, known within the railroad retirement system as the non-covered service pension reduction and the public service pension offset, affected railroad retirees, their spouses, and their survivors in similar ways. The Railroad Retirement Board completed processing of retroactive payments and monthly annuity increases for its beneficiaries, providing affected retirees with both the back payments they were owed and the higher ongoing monthly amounts going forward. If you have a parent, a grandparent, a neighbor, or a friend who spent a career in public service and has been receiving a reduced Social Security benefit or no benefit at all because of the old WEP and GPO provisions, please share this information with them. This is the kind of change that does not always reach the people who need to know about it most. Many older retirees have limited access to news, and the bureaucratic language surrounding Social Security can make it hard to understand what has actually changed and what action, if any, is needed. The most useful thing you can do is sit down with them, help them access their My Social Security account, confirm their banking information is current with the SSA, and encourage them to contact the agency directly if they have not yet received anything and believe they should have. What has unfolded with the Social Security Fairness Act is a reminder of something important, that retirement security is not a given. It has to be fought for, protected, and occasionally corrected when it goes wrong. For 40-plus years, millions of public servants were told that the rules of the system they worked under meant they would receive less in retirement than their private sector counterparts. For 40-plus years, advocacy groups, unions, lawmakers, and retirees themselves pushed back. And now, after all of that time, the correction has finally been made, not just on paper, but in actual deposits landing in actual bank accounts. The differences are being paid. The back payments are flowing. The monthly checks are higher, and for the millions of retired teachers, officers, firefighters, and public workers who had come to accept a diminished retirement income as simply the way things were, the news is that things are different now, and the money you were owed is finally coming home.